Metamorphosis, continuing with the reasoning, exploring, examining. I have in my hand here a book by one of our great writers called J.A. Rogers. J.A. Rogers is a yardman, come from down western section of Jamaica. But Rogers has spent more than 50 years in anthropological and historical research on the African in all ages and all lands. He also traveled extensively, particularly in Europe and Africa. J.A. Rogers was present at the coronation of His Imperial Majesty in 1930, and he was a newspaper correspondent for the Italian-Ethiopian War of 1935 to 36. I'm speaking about J.A. Rogers. J.A. Rogers is a writer that we should have in great reverence. He has written books just like titles From Superman to Man. He also wrote the book 100 Amazing Facts About Black People. And I have in my hand now a book that is called Sex and Race. I'm going through this book because I think it's crucial to improve our understanding of these two powerful forces that dominate civilizations and societies: sex and race. These are two topics that are not really encouraged to even have discussion about right here on this rock. People hide from sex in their discussion, and they have no discussion at all on race. When these are two powerful forces that drive civilization, that drive a lot of behavior, and so we can't turn our head into the sand. Sexuality is vital because it's about energy. Our spirituality is also important. And how are these connected? How is your spirituality connected to your sexuality? Or is there a disconnect that causes psychological and emotional pain? Because sexuality now, because of the Jehovah's principles in teaching according to Moses is that sex is a sin. And in this sinful mode of thinking, sexuality now becomes warped, because what is natural now becomes a sin. There's a conflict in the meditation. It must bring illnesses. It is bound to bring, if not physical illnesses, psychological illnesses, or both. So we have to deal with our sexuality, we have to deal with our spirituality. But we have to clear up the greater mess above our heads. This deity that is contradicting our natural being. Our natural ways of reproducing and procreating and being sexual and being nice and in good relations. Jehovah now, we are being told, telling us that you can't have no sex. And in order to have sex, you have to marry to the man. And if you marry to the man and the sex don't nice, you have to stay with him until one of you die. That is a high form of imprisonment. That's a deep level of punishment. And for the mother of creation to be locked up into this box is a wicked act. It's a wicked act. And the women must bust out. Yeah, man, they must lick out against the construct of this deity that doesn't represent the item. So Jehovah has no female potential. Jehovah has no female understanding. Jehovah is all about a white man. Jehovah is all about the white male. Jehovah is a representation of white supremacy. And in this representation, there is also a son. And this son now is a son that has been sent now to capture the meditation of our black women. Because look at it. After the black man has been ostracized and manhood reduced to zero, the woman still needs a man to look to. The woman still needs a man in her psychological mind for protection. Here comes this olive-skinned man called Jesus the Christ. And him now is being presented as the savior of all of these women. What a tragedy on the black man through Jehovah and his son. Trickery, confusion, time for rejection. Why should I and I be ashamed of our sexuality? It's a natural thing. The African woman is so sensuous. And sensuous doesn't necessarily mean sexual, no, you know. Sensuous is a different meditation. Sensuous goes beyond just looking at the flesh. Sensuous now becomes part of the internal meditation. Because we have sexy women and we have sensuous women. And the sensuous woman sometimes is ignored and overlooked because of the sexiness. But it's all about feelings. When a woman feels about herself, she projects it outwardly. So why now should Christendom come and Jehovah and his constructions and constrictions and to lock up the woman now into this box called matrimony, like a matches box. And you know, to light the matches box, you have to capture a man and lock him in the box with you. But be careful now, you know, because we've been doing this thing for so long and the results have not been positive. The female need to re-examine her position, particularly within the church. Particularly within the churchdom. Why is woman secondary in the Christian church? In the African house, the woman is primary. Things have been changed around. Family structures have been changed up. But it's all about the worshipping of the deity. So we've been given this man deity, and the women are falling in love with his son. And the woman's sexuality now have been repressed because they have been told that they can't have sexual feelings expressed unless they are married in the name of Jesus. So Jesus have all these women. All of these women are attracted to this one man. All of them want this one man. And leave I and I, the natural man, out there. Shouldn't I feel jealous? Shouldn't I feel jealous to know that my African woman is calling up another man? Every time I do something for her, she call up on another man's name. And that other man don't even look like I, man. And everything you do for her, she call upon that other man. In the highest moments of her sexual pleasures, she call upon another man's name. Burn that out. So they have made Jesus the Christ into a supernatural being. They have transformed the imagery into a deity, controlling the meditation of the black people. Sexuality also involves orientation, you know, or your preference. And the traditional African preference was always male to female. That has been the tradition. That has been what has been the African norm. So our sexual feelings have all been directed to each other, male and female, as complementary beings. So when I look into the go-go settings, I saw the man them getting excited over the females. I didn't saw the females getting excited. Maybe some of them were in their own meditation. But in the expressions, the attractions were within the complementary setup. So we understand the value of the female. Yeah, it's a complement to the male to make the two of them one unit. We know no other way. Any other way, as far as I know, is an aberration to the natural order, to the divine order that has been established long before the creation of even Jehovah. So we have to look into how we put together and re-examine the divinities that have been given to us and the deities. And can we not shake off some of these deities that no longer give us any strength? Remember now, you know, all cultures have their deities. The Hindus, the Greeks, the Romans, the Celtics. Yeah, all have their deities. Black people, African people also have their deities. The most critical difference between the African deities and all other deities is that the African deities always move in pairs. There is always a male and a female. Never a male alone, because no man stands alone. And so we have spirituality, which is all about the caring, the kindness, the mercy, the connection to the environment, the spirituality of the people, connected to the environment, connected to the cosmos, connected to each other, through divinity, through knowledge, and through the same story.
You came into my world with love, so soft in love, wine-colored days, warmed by the sun, deep velvet nights, when we are one. Soft in love, so no one hears us but the sky. The vows of love we make will live until we die. My life is yours, and now because you came into my world with love, so softly love. The sun, deep velvet nights, when we are one.
Now, which is better? For a woman to have no man at all, or for a woman to share? Is it better to share and to compare than to compare? Because it reach a point now wherein there's just simply not enough males to go around. So we're going to talk a little bit later on about polygamy, the traditional way of building economic unities. Yes, new way, ancient way, rethinking, reconstruction, metamorphosis on SARS FM.
Who were the founders of science?
This conspiracy will not last. 'Cause we know our history. Who built the pyramid? We are from the Nile Valley. Tell the truth to humanity. We all know your aim. Come on, historian. We all have a claim to fame. Time to tell the world now, tell the world now. We all know your aim. Come on, historian. We all have a claim to fame. We know our history. Who built the pyramid? We are from the Nile Valley. Tell the truth to humanity. Left from the north to the south to the west. Victims of persecution and conquest. But we know our history. Who built the pyramid? We are from the Nile Valley. Tell the truth to humanity. We all know your aim.
Yeah, Metamorphosis continuing. We're into now the section that we call Alkebulan, our story, Kemet. All about the people of melanin, black people, our version of ourselves from the perspective from the Metamorphosis. And you know, Nile Valley culture is a key junction for transformation of self from slave to master of own thoughts. And I have to return to the Nile Valley culture to reclaim the reality of I and I. Now, some of the oldest spiritual beliefs that are known to man are found in Eastern Africa along the Nile Valley. Now, in order to understand the religion of the Nile Valley, this is where Egypt rose to great prominence. You have to understand Africa. This is according to Wallace Bulge, one of the great Egyptologists. Beyond the dressing and beyond the art, there is no other relationship that stands out more between Egypt and Africa than in the era of spirituality. So we have to recognize now, that much of Egypt's systems, ancient Egyptian African belief systems, can be traced right back into the belly of the African continent itself. So we have always had African and Egyptian things that are similar because it's the same continent, but of course different areas. So the religious rituals and religious ideas that are ancient before Jehovah, we have to locate most of them in Africa, and we have to locate them in ancient Egypt. The thing about ancient Egypt is that you find that the philosophies and the concept of the deities were very important to the Africans from that time. There were several deities in ancient Africa. Some of these were Oset, Osar, and Ra. We're going to talk about 3 or 4 of those deities in this program. The thing about these is that the deities were never really separate from each other. They're all interconnected. This is part of the foundations of African thinking, that things are interconnected. So the deities could easily be united into one deity. For example, there was Amen, and there was Ra, and there was a time when they were united into Amen-Ra. So the Africans have this way of transforming and adding and moving the deities. They could become unified, and as well they could become separated. Now, there's usually a chief deity among all others. And the Yoruba people have an example of a chief deity, and the Egyptians also had their concept of a chief deity. So the idea I'm trying to give to the item now is that we must feel free to explore the concept of deities without being locked into any one particular deity that is responsible for everything. Because our ancient culture speak about several deities. Now I want to talk to you about Osar. A-U-S-A-R. Osar is known to us through the Greeks as Osiris. But Osiris is not the name that was used by the African people or the Kemetic people. They call this god Osar, A-U-S-A-R. And Osar is one of the most famous of the gods in Egypt. He's considered to be the first king of Egypt. And it is thought that he was composed of a long line of dead kings. According to the legend, Osar was slain by his jealous half-brother Set, S-E-T, who cut his body into 14 pieces. Osar was eventually resurrected and ruled in the underworld. And this is a document that shows the oldest belief of a resurrection and immortality. So in other words now, long before the first Jew was born, or even the concept of Jehovah was created, the ancient Egyptians had a deity named Osar. And Osar is a documented evidence of the first resurrection. Osar was killed by his jealous brother Set, S-E-T. And S-E-T is really the challenge to the sunrise, because the sun rises and the sun sets. And so the Set is considered to be the jealous half-brother that killed Osar. But Osar had a companion. And Osar's companion was Oset, A-U-S-E-T. That was very typical of African deities. And Oset was a wife and the sister of Osar. She was later on called Isis. And like her husband, she was thought to be an ancestral spirit. She was called the Queen of Egypt and was said to be responsible for bringing writing and agriculture to the people. Osar symbolized the fertility of the land. So here we are, a few thousand years before captivity by the Europeans and their religious ideologies. And we can see the original notion of the Trinity. Because Osar and Oset have a son. And this son is considered to be the first immaculate conception. His name is Heru, H-E-R-U. He's the immaculately conceived son of Oset and Osar. And his birth, it is said, that 3 wise kings came to honor him while he was adored by all manner of people. So Heru is the word where we get the word hero from, hero. So I'm going to show the item that long before we were brought into captivity and locked into these stories and fables and tales, we have our story of the Trinity, of Osar, Oset, and Heru. We have the concept of the original resurrection, and we have the concept of the Immaculate Conception. Way before they created the story of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus.
Economic liberation is a duty I owe to posterity. Great Zimbabwe stands, ancient rock solid firm. Come now, Jacob go down. Great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls. When they saw Zimbabwe walls, they said it was the foundation.
the Iberian. We know it is 100% African. Yaga yo, naga naga na yeah. Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls. So who your Vasco de Gama be? So who Prince Henry the Navigator be? So who was yours? So Walter Raleigh. So who was Amerigo Vespucci? Some kind of Johnny come lately, talking about them make some kind of discovery. Diamond is the living anthropology. Diamond is the living archaeology. Yaga yaga yo, Zimbabwe wall, great Zimbabwe wall, Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls. When they built up the Aswan Dam, it was the Western archaeologists' plan to flood with historical Sudanese land. Afraid of the glory of the Nubian, afraid you will see your connection. Yaga yo, yaga yaga yo, to Zimbabwe, great Zimbabwe walls, great Zimbabwe walls.
So I'm going to give a little bit more about Osar and Oset. Ausar, who the Greeks call Osiris, and Auset, Oset, who the Greeks also call Isis. They have changed up the names of all of our people, you know, to remove the power of the sound. But Osar, Oset, her husband, we said, is Osar, and he was murdered by Set. So following her husband's death, Oset searched the land for him. She found his body, only to have Set dismember it into 14 pieces. Once more she searched for her husband and located all of the pieces of his body, save his penis. So she found everything else except the pen. And so Oset created an obelisk. This is a symbol to symbolize her husband's missing part. If you look around the world, there are a lot of obelisks in certain important capitals. It's a symbol, it's what's it called, a phallic symbol. It's a phallus. Now with the help of two of the other gods, Tehuti and Ampu, Osar was resurrected. And the legend further goes to say that while her husband was dead, his spirit entered and impregnated her. We're talking about thousands of years now, you know, before the creation of even Adam. That Osar was resurrected. And that he, the husband, his spirit entered and impregnated her while he was dead. And shortly after, she conceived a child, who she would name Heru. And this act represents the first immaculate conception known to mankind. And Oset is worshipped right around the world, and for several thousands of years, up to Rome, where her temples became numerous. Oset, female entity, female power in the divinity. Now the immaculately conceived son called Heru. Yeah man, immaculately conceived son of Oset and Osar is Heru. H-E-R-U. At his birth, it is said that 3 wise kings, or Magi, came to honor him, while he was adored by all manner of Neteru and men. As an adult, Heru avenged his father by triumphing over his wicked uncle, Set. Heru then journeyed to the underworld, where he sits with his father in judgment of the dead. He is depicted as a falcon, or a man with a falcon head. Heru became known also as the child of the light, the setting sun representing the sun, driving away darkness, which represented by Set, the setting sun. From the earliest times in ancient Egypt, Eru came to represent the living king or divine kingship. This idea of the king as nearly a living god typifies African ideology and is thought to have come up the Nile from the south to Egypt. So the old philosophy and ideology of a god king is African. The Africans respected the notion of the divinity of the god kings. And the notion of the god king is another name that they gave to the pharaoh. So the pharaoh now is a language that has been given to us to drive fear into us. And the fear we have is the fear of our own selves, because now we are afraid of the god kings. So we have been wrapped up into a lot of ulabaloo talk. We've been given a trinity without a female power. And we also know that the living God, King, is African. So when Rastafari, in this modern time, begins to make the relationship between God and King, it is not something new. It's an ancient African retention. The Europeans thought they had done a good job in wiping out all of that. But they're telling the item to give thanks to Rastafari. The Rastafari has held that edge and maintained a consciousness of resistance, knowing that deep, deep within there is something black and powerful about being African. But the powerful nature of the African rests much in the female. And it is the female that I and I must speak to. It's the female that needs to be rescued. It's the female that needs to rescue herself. Recognizing divinity. Recognizing that before we were brought into this Western captivity, the item was never servants, and the item were never slaves. In the model of the Christian Eve, and the Christian Jezebel, and the Christian Delilah. This is not the nature of the black woman. So we have to resurrect the Trinity, Osar, Oset, and Eru. We have to recognize the divinity of the female, recognize the divinity of the male, recognize the power of the child, and ultimately the family.
Make we do it. And if you're ready, make we do it. Make we do it for Jah. Make we do it Rastafari. Make we do it the roots and culture. Make we do it. And if you're ready, make we do it. Make we do it and make we do it. Make we do it and make we do it. Make we do it. Make we do it. Every nation have to 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 do it. Make them do it, yeah, make them do it. Make them do it, yeah, make them do it. Do it for Jah, Rastafari. Roots and culture. Do it for Jah, Rastafari. I make we do it, I make we do it, I make we do it, I make we do it. And if you're ready, 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 make we do it. I make we do it, I make we do it. I make we do it, I make we do it. I make we do it.
I have to continue to hail the people who are listening to this program, people who are locked in the Styles FM. And of course, text lines are open 453-1444. Same thing for the phone lines for people who are local. And of course, there's an abroad number that all of them know by now. All go Cassidy. Some foreign number that they can call and say what they want to say. Yes, they will soon tell you how that one go. In the meantime, I want to hail Splash 94.3 FM over there in New Jersey. And Splash give me a list of people now to hail, And I tell you, I'm going to do it. OB1, Tsunami Family, hail Tsunami, DJ Alimu, Rupi T, Dave, Genius, DJ Jack, Attack, Mr. Nice. Yeah, Boogie Vibes, DJ RU, King Aquarius. And we're healing all those people who are in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. Hail the people in the Bronx. Hail the ones in Brooklyn and Queens, D-Ville, A. Shaw, Parnell. All the people who listen to Metamorphosis and who make this a part of their way of being and existing. Give thanks. And of course, people abroad, you want to link the program, you can link me at 954-338-7973. Reading through the French written by Cassidy. Yes, so we're here and you can give us a link. We want to find out what you think about the role of the female. How is it we have been mismanaging her powers since emancipation and the disconnection in the family structure, where our deities have been removed from our consciousness and been replaced by European males, primarily Jehovah and his son, Jesus the Christ. There's no reason to argue about whether it's Yeshua or Jesus. That is an irrelevant discussion. It is a concept of a son that counts. The son that belongs to his father. His father that we keep talking about, our Father who art in heaven. I am saying our mother who is earth. Give us strength. Because it is a woman that has the strength. The woman bear the children, bear the pressure. And yet in our divinity as African people, there is no woman. The man alone will crumble. And look in the society and look in the family. Look how the things set up and how it catch up. It needs revamping. Yes. No. And how many of us still believe in our Father? Seriously. How much of the one them out there who listening to I know believe in the Lord's Prayer? This is one that has been given to us from our eyes were at the level of our uncle. Not even the knee, We're eye there with uncle. And then program that one day in a way. Our Father. We're going to go through that slowly. And how many believe that Babylon must burn? All who say Babylon must burn, say yeah. And be careful now what you say, because we're going to explore the word sound and power. And if we burn Babylon, are we not burning our black cells? What do you believe? So we're believing in things that we don't understand and causing us grief and pain. How many people really know what the Lord's Prayer is? It's a very crucial and significant part of the program of controlling the brain of the black man and black woman. It's called the Lord's Prayer. Now, why them know I have a serious issue with the Lord from day one? Because even in reading the book, the Lord was entered into the scene in chapter 2. The Lord entered the book of Genesis in chapter 2. And in all of chapter 1, there was no Lord God. It was all about the Creator, using words, sound, and power to create animals and plants and people. And in chapter 2, we're introduced to this thing called Lord God. Very jealous and deadly kind of character. But then we are told now that there is a Lord's Prayer. And this prayer now is drilled into our consciousness and subconsciousness that to become a part of our makeup. But we never usually spend any time revisiting what is it we are praying for. And what is it we are praying to. And after thousands of years of saying this prayer, how much benefit have we gotten from the Lord? This Lord's Prayer. It says, Our Father. Our meaning who? The China people don't say the Lord's Prayer. The Indians don't speak to the Lord's Prayer. So who is our Father? Our meaning who? Our who? So is the Father of the black people? Is the Father of the slaves we're talking to? Our Father? Because the Father that I know is my biological or my ancestral fathers. I know of no spiritual father in no place to come. So when you take me out of my natural state and take my attention away from my natural father and provide me now with a father that is above, off the planet Earth, outside of my consciousness, and then tell I know that that is the father I must now give praises to. So where is my biological, racial father? Where is the man who bring me through genetically and seed me? Where him there? So that prayer is a big lick against black people and black family. Yeah, our Father who art in heaven. Now, right away, everybody turn them eye towards the sky. So we're not even looking at each other anymore. We're looking into the heaven. So this Father now that is in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I'm not so sure what hallowed mean. But thy kingdom come. What is the kingdom of the Lord? Does the kingdom of the Lord bring prosperity to black people? We've been in it for 2,000 years now. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. This is a significant final blow. Because what this does now is cripple the will of the black mind. Because we have surrendered our will now to this Father in heaven, whose will we shall rule under. This is a crucial prayer that we say automatically, without thinking. So we're locked into the Father, and the women are locked into the Son. And collectively, we struggle in this confusion.
Now let's give thanks and praise unto the Most High. Rastafari, King of all kings, ruler all things. And lift up my hands unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from Jah, who has made Zion and the earth. Oh gosh, give my strength, mighty Jah, Jah, give my strength to carry on. Give my strength, mighty Jah, Jah, give my strength, and no harder. Children are working harder, day and night, striving to survive, striving to survive. Listen, lots of things to take care of. You know the going is rough, oh Lord, and the food's not enough. Lord Mikey, gotta fill a little gap. That's why
Always asking the question, where is our mother? Where is our mother? It can't be all about our Father. Because the Father don't make himself. The Father is a output of the mother. Because if we want to get into the mythological realities that surround us, it is a female that generates life. So where is the Holy Mother? And we don't want no female in the flesh, because we're not looking at no male in the flesh as the male divinity. We're talking about spiritual forces, which really have no he, she gender attached. So where's the feminine then? If we are told that everything is of a gendered nature, where is the female? How do we not say Holy Mother? It's years now I don't pray to no Father God, you know, because I know some man under pressure. Everybody I call upon Father God. That man book him to a boy Father. Every time I say man boy Father, and I'm saying enough. We can resurrect the woman in the divinity. Let us resurrect Mother God. We're not talking about no Mary. We're talking about the divinity, the female divinity, which is equivalent at the level of the male. So Osar and Oset, the representation of the male and the female deities, and the child, which represents the family, is the foundation of black family life. It is the male, the female, and the child. It is not the nuclear construction of the Europeans, of the man, the woman, and the cat and the dog. That is not black family. That is a European construct that is easily upset if either of the major players get ill. If the mother or the father drop out, the nuclear family crash. So it's like the father and the son with no woman. It crash already. It crashed already. So we have to leg the vehicle that has been crashed and begin to reconstruct one that can move. And we need to move with the females. And the females need to lick out into the church, or them have no role in the divinity. Why is it the female can't be a pastor? And why is it all men control? Because it's a European construct. It's a white man thing. And these pastors are simply benefiting from a white supremacist model that controls and dominates the female. I'm going to make a little diversion, you know. You know, say, I got to bring my engineer at this. Cassidy, you ever hear about a thing called the missionary pose? Yeah, when people engage in sexual behavior, and them say the woman must take the missionary pose. You ever hear about that pose yet? Him say no, you know. Him I laugh, you know, but him can't say yes or no. When you see that pose, you know, is a pose that was created by the missionaries. And the missionary used the pose to hold on the black woman. It's a rape pose, you know. It's a rape pose. Them call it the missionary pose. It's rape, you know. And the woman is under subjection. She can't move. Because in the traditional way of sexuality, the African woman was always free. And so she operated from the top, where her hips could move freely. The missionary pose is a form of enslavement. That's only way the white man could have sex with the black woman. He might have pin her down. And in that pinning down, he didn't want to call it rape. He said, it's a missionary pose. Liberation 1.
Mikey Drip, Mikey.
Hey, Charles Hayes, give thanks for your continuous listening to the Metamorphosis. A text line from Hotbox asking the question, where is heaven? I hear you say it could be somewhere where men go and get pleasure. Heaven, when they go and they say, yes, them finally come. This battle I know I won't lose. This way we got delivered and the children of so good God, look what they doing to my soul. Yeah, we're looking into where we're there. Where we're there as a people struggling to identify our blackness and the whole notion of respecting deities and worshipping of deities and worshipping of alien deities. So we have to sort out ourselves now at that level. And within all constructions of divinities, African people always had the female at the center. So you see, so we get trapped into this Western thing with pure man, and it's pure white man. All males, all promoting that homosexuality drive. Yeah, that old vibration now that confusing our sexuality. I just hear recently that the very Pope himself now is trying to remove the celibacy law. Crazy. Celibacy is something that was created by the Europeans because they don't know how to control their own sexual feelings. When you reach up in the white man, him commit rape because of the lack of control and the other areas to divert sexual energies. Because sexual energies are creative energies. It also links to the imagination of the brain. Because it takes a bit of imagination to arouse the sexuality. That's why in the go-go club the girls are 1/8 dress. In other words, they are 7/8 naked. Because about arousing sensuality and feelings. So these things are natural within I and I. It is just in the Western world now, in order to control black people, We have been put under these type of systems of monogamy, which contradicts the natural way of operating. So the woman have such an important role to play in the liberation of the African people, that she has been attacked in a very serious way from day one. Her psychology, her emotions, her attitude, her children, all have been under attack. That ultimately now the man get disconnected. And in the disconnection of the male from the female, then basically now the family has been torn asunder. And with their own family, then there is no unity and there is no nation. I make you wonder why in a place like Jamaica you hear them say family no good. I never hear that anywhere else. Where do we get those type of training from? When did you arrive at that conclusion that family no good? The foundation of civilization rests upon families. The ancient dynasties of Egypt and Mesopotamia and Babylonia is families. So how can we now in 2014 tell one another that we say family no good? But for watch what we say. The importance of word and sound. And in that context now, I also want to touch a little bit now on the sound that is we hear all the while around me. When people are vexed and when people are angry and them lick out, and the word them lick out against is Babylon. Now we have to begin to stop and think again, because word sound is power. And although the original Rastaman of the 30s, in his attempt to identify the enemy, drawing reference from the Bible was the only source. And in that reference, Babylon is referred to as an evil place. Now we have to wake up now, out of that early interpretation and come into the reality of no. Because when we condemn Babylon in 2014, we were doing it with a high level of ignorance. Because Babylon was a city. But the bigger place was Babylonia. An ancient state, a cultural region. In the early before the Christian era. And Babylon was involved in some of the greatest development that the Western world has ever known. Yeah, Babylon and Babylonia. So watch yourself now, as we condemn Babylon. Because it is the Babylonian state that brought forth things like astronomy to the Europeans. It is Babylonian that brought forth the literature that told the Europeans about the creation of the earth through the stories of Gilgamesh and Enkidu. That Babylon had great art and architecture. Astronomy. The development of the calendar. So when we talk about Babylon must burn, and we are born Babylon, it was in Babylon that they discovered ways of diagnosing and prognosticating and providing prescriptions. High levels of medicines were created in the Babylon culture. So be careful now how we born Babylon. In the way we born Pharaoh. Because that is a high level of ignorance. To born the God King. And to born the creators of science. And the designers of mathematics. Which is our own selves. We have to watch it. Careful what you believe.
For the best quality in sound reinforcement and backlining, Native Audio. We have professional engineers with over 20 years of experience. So call us and we'll take care of your parties, wedding receptions, barbecues, conferences, and small stage shows. Crystal clear sound, Native Audio. Our prices are the best. Call us at 871-5212. That's 871-5212. Native Audio. We make your events audible.
Hey, are you ready? You ready? All right. All right, let's go. Do you know what time it is? Do you know what time it is? Yes, it's on a Saturday. Every Saturday morning, live on Stars 96.1, the People Station. Here's an invitation to join yours truly, Colin Anthony, the man with all the money, honey. The program is called Smooth Sailing. Every Saturday morning from 9 o'clock until 1 on the p.m. It's gonna be on Stars FM 96.1. Have you got a plan? Oh, you've got a plan? We've got a plan. Do remember to join us. Smooth Sailing.
Are you ready for the time of your life? Up in the club,
Hey party fans, what's up?
What's up in the club?
Up in the club, the event and venue bulletin board only on Styles FM, where you can expose your hotspot venue and upcoming events. On the program Saturday Frenzy at 3 p.m. Every Saturday.
Every Saturday?
Yes, I mean every Saturday. For more info, call
286-9216. That's 286-9216.
Hey, this is me, Brother Gary. I tell you, say, if you want to advertise anything you have, if you sell anything, truck, car, bus, anything you're keeping, make sure you advertise it past Styles FM. Call this number 439-5160. 439-5160. And I guarantee you, everybody I go into your business.
Yes, we're getting stronger, and Babylon I get weaker. Yes, we're stepping up stronger, coming harder, ain't looking back, feeling stronger. Ready to launch the attack. Do you remember when we were the cream of the crop? Is the Bible at the carbon we got? They took us away from Africa with an intention to kill our culture, but through the power of the Most High, our mental capacity get wider. Coming harder, ain't looking back, feeling stronger. Ready to launch the attack. Do you remember when we were the cream of the crop? They stole our Bible at the carbon we got. This is the time to live as one. Help your brother man from out of the slum. It's no crime. It's blood that we run. To liberate yourself, you have to live in the sun. Coming harder, ain't looking back, feeling stronger. Ready to launch the attack. Remember when we were the cream of the crop? They stole our Bible. At the carbon we got emancipate your mind.
Babylonian astronomy was the basis for much of what was done in Greek and Hellenistic astronomy. It is also the foundation of Indian astronomy and Syrian astronomy. This is the power of the Babylonian philosophy and Babylonian culture. And we must not be deceived by what they wrote in the King James Version of the Bible. That is not the fullness of Babylonia. So likewise, most of the writings that the Europeans have given us is of skewed version of the reality. And so we have to ease off the bonding of Babylon and begin to focus on the real enemy. The enemy was never Babylon. The enemy was never Babylonia. The enemy was and always is Rome. It is the Papal See, the Holy See, the Vatican. This is the center of the source of oppression on black people for the last 2,000 years. So we have been deceived into thinking about Babylon as the enemy. Babylon is our creation, and what we create is not our enemy. So we have to liberate ourselves now intellectually and begin to focus on what the Rastaman in the original days told you was the problem. The problem was the Vatican. And if you want this Vatican and this Francis moving, Francis doing some serious things. Francis will consolidate the power of the Catholic Church. Francis is going to let in all the gay and lesbians them into the church. Francis is saying, done with celibacy. More people him want. Francis gone down into the Middle East, claiming to be the peacemaker between the Arabs and the Palestinians and the Jews. So we're going to watch the papers say, and we'll watch the papers say, and we'll leave Rome, because Rome is not the problem. We're going to leave Babylon. Babylon is not the problem of the black man. It is a Roman Empire. It is the same Roman Empire that attacked His Majesty. Same Roman Italian forces. So let us not be deceived. And let us not continue to believe that Pharaoh is the enemy of the black people. Pharaoh is our God King. The dynasty of the Pharaohs are our God Kings. And our deities are males and females. So woman, free up yourself from this Jesus and look into the man that you're next to. The real man, the African. Metamorphosis continuing into the news, Afrocentric views on NEWS, right here on Styles FM. Of course, I want to continue to hear the people who are continuously listening to the Metamorphosis. Sister Dale, Bongo John, Dale Breastworks. Yeah. People over in the St. Mary country there, Sister Pauline. People over in the new listeners over there in the North American scenario there. Forward right here to Central, Sammy Rongabafo. And of course, Titchfield Hill and the Free School. And the Norwich Heights. And of course, over there in Harbour View. And the UWI campus. And the people who are in Africa, North America, South America. We all give thanks that there is the internet. We give thanks for the communication, Instamatic. Something that Garvey would have loved. An ability to communicate by the fingertips and the voice. Yeah, world news. There is a war on in Europe. Not given much coverage, but there is a war. Where helicopters are being shot down. Must be considered a war. And that's happening right now in the Ukraine. It's not given much news. It's really a war of white people. Yes, they are fighting for the remnants of the Soviet Empire. Because we must remember that the Soviet Union was pulled down in 1989-1990. It was pulled down through the efforts of the United States and the Pope at the time. And they got behind the Iron Curtain and they pulled down the Soviet Union and sort of transform the world into this new world order dominated by America and its capitalism. So the battle is still going on, capitalism versus the rest. And the Russians are very different kind of tribe. And now the Ukraine is a hot spot now. We know that there are nuclear weapons there, and we know that these people are not too level-headed at times. So we're staying here and we're watching. And as African people, we must be alert enough not to just react, but to be able to be thinking in advance of some of the repercussions of another European war. This will be their third one. And of course, it would disrupt trade and communication and perhaps, force black people to become more consolidated as a people. There is also a bigger thing going on in terms of money and the shortage of money in the world, particularly amongst the very poor people. where we see that cash is to achieve now. And as you achieve the cash, the cost of the goods rise. So is there an answer to this? Or do we continue to tighten the belt until your belly reach your back? We are under some serious distress, and part of the solution is overstanding. Since the 1990s, you know, we have been introduced to a new industry. It is called stress. Somehow since the 90s, stress has become a way of life. Everything a man says stress. And you have classes now for stress, and you have food for stress, and it all has turned into an industry. Now, my ancient relatives and grand and great grandpeople always were under pressure, but they never call it stress, and not having any special medicines and special clothes and special places to go just to relieve stress. So I think it's a manufactured system. And I don't need to be part of this system of stress. If we realize ourselves as African people, realize the movement of the globe, and sight up how the thing really run. Because it is this unity now, you know. Unity don't mean we all sing the same song. But the unity means that we all agree to the same project. And the project that we want to agree to must be economic now. We have to agree on economic projects. The way the world is, and I keep using 1990 as a reference point, because in 1990 there were two significant events that took place that changed the entire world. One was the release of Nelson Mandela, and one was the bringing down of the Berlin Wall. Those two events collectively brought about what is called a New World Order. A New World Order that didn't have any more East versus West struggle. There was no divide. The polarity of the world was no longer there. But there was still a power. And that one power decided to consolidate itself, call itself America, and put us under this banner now that they call globalization. Under this banner, all the trades, deals, all the agreements with these small third world countries were removed, and all the countries were now exposed to the ravages of capitalism. And I'm suggesting to the item now listening that within these ravages, we still have our basic way of living, and our basic way of surviving, and our basic mode of production still remains agriculture. We're not making any money from agriculture because goods are coming into the country cheaper because of this manufactured thing called globalization. The American government, the World Trade Organization, and the World Bank have come together to force small countries to open their borders. And so we're being overpowered now by these cheap goods. How do we find our way out? That is the challenge. As we consider our condition in 2014, there are some fundamental things that we must face and finance. And one of the most basic needs that need to be financed is that of fuel. Now, fuel comes in the form of petrol, gas, that type of fuel, but there's also food. Food is an important fuel. Because so without that fuel, the body kind of go into slow motion. So fuel and food on water are essentials for endurance in this time. Now, you see, when we look at those three things, fuel is something that, as far the island is concerned, it's all imported. So 90% of our fuel, let us say, is imported. Imported means they have to pay for that fuel in foreign currency. Then we have water, which is a basic need. And the water company must pay the fuel company. And so the fuel again becomes a critical expenditure on this island. When it comes to food, problems because of the inability of our farmers to sell their own food because of the same thing I just described. And the cheap food that's coming in is not healthy. It's a rubbish that other societies are sending out that we are now absorbing. All of these things require one basic element, and that thing is called money. So it is cash, currency that this island needs. And the island doesn't need currency that is generated here. The country needs foreign currency. We need foreign currency to pay for the things that come from foreign. How do we get foreign currency in this island? What is it that we have to offer to the rest of the world that they will spend their currency on? Think it out. It must be agricultural based. And if you check the agricultural scenario from the British to the Spanish till now, we have been known to be creators of farm food. Banana. There's a time when the sugar was king. So we have moved from sugar cane, we have had banana, green gold. But over the last 10-20 years, between the hurricanes and the strategies of the World Trade Organizations, we really have no more crops that can be giving us real currency, foreign, except the cannabis.
Feel the crying of the people, struggle every day. The young ones out there on the street, some already gone astray. All you seem to care about is the money that you take. Then deceive the people with your tricks. Now look what you create. And now we all are paying for it because of your mistake.
So the leaders of Jamaica, the leaders of Jamaica, you have to make some important decisions as it relates to our economic survival. What is it we are going to create and send out to bring in our foreign exchange?
Come when things will go our way.
We say, the leaders, I want to take heed, because you have to do something serious. I mean, I say, when the work is connected to agriculture, the work of our survival is linked to farming. What we need to do is identify what is it that we need to farm positively that the world would spend foreign exchange on. Because we have it. It has always been here. It's called the cannabis. Sativa. L. Ganja. Marijuana. Hemp. Are the same thing. Our leaders must recognize now that there is no alternative except the farming of cannabis sativa. Now, the importance of this is the implications are so serious for this island and for African and Caribbean Pacific states, for the countries who have been globalized and have their economies wiped away because of these intrusions of these organizations. The solution rests in farming. The solution rests not in medical marijuana, because medical marijuana is a entity that will be controlled by the wealthy. Medical marijuana requires laboratories and scientists and high levels of income and research. The secret rests in the farming of hemp. There are attempts to set up ganja farmers organizations in Jamaica and various parishes. It is all well. But I'm telling the item now that the ganja farmers are missing the boat if they're not focusing on hemp and the industrialization of that plant.
Warning. The Surgeon General warns. Cigarette smoking is dangerous. Dangerous. Hazard to your health. Does that mean anything to you? Them legalize marijuana. Right here in Jamaica, yeah. Them say it cure glaucoma, yeah. I'm an the bush doctor, yeah. So there'll be no more smoking and feeling tense. When I see them I come, I don't have to jump no fence. Legalize marijuana.
Now, the legalization of marijuana is a serious problematic, I think, and not the way forward for Rastafari to promote. I think we should be promoting the decriminalization of ganja and the industrialization of the hemp. Yes, it's a time for some clarity in our thinking. The legalization of marijuana is, to me, as similar to fight the fight for reparations. It's a long-term struggle that requires much legal intervention and time. For legalization, we have to overturn quite a few treaties to which a country has subjected itself to. That goes back decades. This will not happen in a week or a month necessarily, or even a year. The focus then ought to be on the decriminalization of ganja, to take the police force off the back of the citizens, to free up the legal system from these thousands and thousands of $100 fines that really don't add up to much, but take away from the citizens in their productive time and put us a white mark on their records. So there's more to achieve in the decriminalization of ganja than the legalization at this moment. There's much more to achieve. Less harassment in our society, where you have young policemen approaching grown big men and digging them down, searching them for leaf and seed. Embarrassing. We have to remove that scourge out of the society and free the regular citizen to move through the society with them spliff in his hand or in his pocket. We're not promoting the smoking of ganja in the society. That's never the idea. Because there's still a law against smoking in public spaces. So the Rasta man have to wake up out of the clouds of smoke, and in his desire to have this thing legalized, thinking so that we allow him to smoke ganja any and everywhere. It does not. What decriminalization done is take the oppression off the back of I and remove that draconian power out of the hand of police. They make police have to just go through and allow people with the minimal amount of herb. As long as we're not selling it and we're not into it for export, it should be treated the same way it is treated in states of Colorado and Washington, D.C. If you're found with more than a quarter ounce, you pay like a traffic ticket. But you're not criminalized. And the other aspect now of the ganja is not about the medical side. It's about the hemp. It's about the plant that has no psychoactive properties in it. It's about the ganja that cannot be smoked. It's about the ganja that makes 2,500 different products, from cellophane to dynamite. It is in that realm of consciousness that our economic liberation rests. It is through farming, but through farming linked with agricultural and industry. The Jamaican farmers have been farming for food for 300 years. Food farmers. Food is not selling anymore. And we have more than what we need to feed ourselves. We need to find a product that will bring us foreign exchange. So we industrialize the hemp and we make our paper. We make our khaki clothes. We make our oil and butter. And we expand ourselves in the world of economics and shake off the IMF and the World Bank and the WTO. Cannabis sativa for the healing of the economics of this nation.
Senor in Rouge. Aye, sir.
The power of hemp is so great that it also creates fuel. Yes, there's hemp fuel. You see, with knowledge, we can eradicate poverty, you know. Hemp is the magical plant. It is a plant that has been given to man by the Creator. Yes, let us use that language. By the earth has produced this plant that is the most versatile plant on the planet. So from this plant we can get fuel, we can get fiber, we can improve our standard of living by reducing our spending on things that we don't have the money to spend on. So governance now becomes an important force, leadership. And does the leadership of this country really try to move the people out of poverty? Or is it that they spend all the time loving the people that are poor? We have to make some very crucial decisions. And hemp, the ganja, the cannabis is key to the economic liberation, not of Jamaica only, but of the Caribbean states, African Caribbean states, the ACP countries, the countries that were tied into the European Union, who used to give us these, we call BLI, trade tariff and write-offs. Now those things have dried up and we don't have no money. But we have our intellect and we have the cannabis. We have that ganja plant. We have to take our minds off the smoking for a while. Smoking of ganja is not the most benefit you get from the plant. We must begin to industrialize the cousin called hemp. Because remember now that there are two strains. There is a smoking marijuana and there's a hemp for industry. In Jamaica we call it wild ganja. We need factories, we need investment in hemp factories. We need to transform our country through farming and industry. In the 1960s, Jamaica was advanced significantly through a process called industrialization by invitation. In that process, we invited multinational countries, multinational nations, and companies to come in and help us to develop our natural resources. In this time, we also need to apply that same principle, industrialization, this time by our own self-effort.
So even when the road get rocky, me say me never give up. I said there ain't no giving in. And when the going get tough, I said the tough get going. And my people don't give up. I said there ain't no giving in. No, Rastafari guide I knife from the beginning. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Rolino, what's coming now? What a beautiful goal from Pele! El Rey! The way that Maradona has been able to do. And he's helping England again here. This is a brilliant run. It's one of the World Cup great goals.
Set.
They get away first time. Tyson Gay right alongside Usain Bolt, but here he goes, streaking away already. It's Bolt all the way. He's looking round at Gay. Watch the clock. It's goal for Bolt. And again, he's done it again. A new world record for Usain Bolt. They say lightning doesn't strike twice. The world belongs to Bolt.
When you take the lead, make sure you can maintain it. Oh gosh, this rough old veteran. Watch out, I am a sprint, just be a long distance runner. So why nobody try test me?
Metamorphosis Sports, the sprint factory has started up in Jamaica. Of course, we are the #1 country in the world for sprinting, and the factory is up and running again. We started with champs, and the champs produced all the glory that we were expecting, records falling left, right and center. And then it moved on to the Carifta Games, where the World Youth Games, all sorts of things going on, and the Jamaicans setting new world records in the 4x2, I think. And great things happening in the world of athletics. It is our strength. It is our power. It is unfortunate that we're not able to translate some of that success from athletics into other areas of our life. But we have to give thanks for athletics. Of course, athletics has a long tradition. We have been winning medals from the 1940s. And our schools have been geared towards producing Olympians. So we have a program in Jamaica from the very primary school that takes the youths through the primary, through the secondary, through the tertiary, into the clubs, and ultimately onto the Olympic stage. It's an excellent program for athletics, and we congratulate Veronica Campbell-Brown on her return. And right away, she has made herself a challenger instantly. There is Shelley Ann Price. There is the return of Johan Blake. So the terrorists in the running is on the rise. And there is no question about the skill of our coaches. There is no question about the infrastructure that takes a youth from primary school to the Olympics. This is absolutely missing in football. And I will get to that as I get into the football. But we're watching athletics, and the world is watching Jamaica. We are more conscious about drugs, and we are much more alert to the responsibilities. And I'm sure the athletes and the runners will show themselves to be first class, as usual. Then there's a little bit about the cricket. You know, we have a song called Sammy Dead. You know what Sammy did? Who said Sammy did? Well, we had a cricketer in the Caribbean named Sammy. Sammy was installed as a captain against a whole heap of odds, primarily in his own ability to play. And normally when you're a captain, your game should be nearly guaranteed because of your performance. We had a captain whose game was not guaranteed, which means the leadership was always shaky. The West Indies team was always known as a team that was dominated by personalities that led. Clive Lloyd, Vivian Richards. We have had people who have had great character and personality. Sammy, however, had known not much. Was much of a good player in terms of consistency, and so Sammy is dead. The West Indies team is dying, and it's lack of leadership, which is not just in the West Indies only. It's a Caribbean issue. We seem to be having problems at the leadership level, where people who are leading are confusing leadership with domination. And we don't need people to be dominant. We need people to lead. And you lead by merit. All of those things we have to work out in the Caribbean. Issues of leadership, issues of teamwork. Because we are strong as the individuals, but obviously we are having problems in group games, like football.
Everybody's a man hustling, bright and early in the morning. Everybody's a man hustling. I know Sergeant Query is waiting. Everybody's a man hustling. I know it's my neck I'm risking. Everybody's a man hustling. But you see that's my daily living. Jump in a minivan, we gonna country. Left me wife and me hungry picnic. Jump in a minivan, we gonna country. Left me wife and me hungry picnic.
Yeah, football, Reggae Boys World Cup happening in Brazil next month. Reggae Boys will not be there. We have not been there for the last 4 tournaments. And we're going like I said, we have been there many times before. We have been there once. Once. 1998, with the blessings of FIFA and the whole world rally around this small country to show that football had become democratized and third world nations could qualify for the big stage. That was in 1998 when it was one big party. We have been suffering for the last 4 World Cups, and the suffering continues. However, the deception also continues, because we are being deceived of a program that is ongoing, that just started. It's called the Reggae Boys playing warm-up matches. And we had 2 games so far, 2 negative results, but people would like to think that they have looked well. My brethren here tell me, say, them look okay for 70 minutes, which has been the norm, looking okay for 70 minutes. Professional football, like all sports, is all about the last 10 minutes. Whether it's NBA or the NFL or world-class soccer, professional sports is about the final 5 minutes and in time added on. This is where you separate the winners from those who are just participating. And as far as I am concerned, that's where Jamaica has always been weak, and will be weak there for a long time until the program is transformed and we begin to have a national program rather than a Reggae Boys program. Because those two are not the same. A Reggae Boys program is a program that is concentrating on the national team and the national team and the national team only. A national program looks at the structures of the leagues in the country. How do they connect? The continuity from high school to a next level to a next level. That is national football. We still don't have anybody paying attention to that because we still don't have a national technical director. We have a national coach, and we're doing the same thing. We're trying to qualify for the World Cup every 4 years. So there's no intermediate strategy. There's no foundation for the gap that exists between national play and the World Cup. So we're doing the country right now. We started the World Cup program already. It's a deception. I will not be a part of that. I am an observer, looking on, knowing that football is built from the bottom to the top. The Reggae Boys, of course, was the only program in the world that was built from the top down. And those who were part of that have not realized that that is not sustainable, but is a good hype. Locally, of course, the National Premier League is over. And we have a new winner. Western Jamaica is now a force to be reckoned again. And I personally am very thankful that the football has moved out of the corporate area, out of St. Catherine, and has gone into the western section of the island. Of course, the greatest hope is that one day the football will come east. That is more like really, really a hope. Real hope. Real hope will probably rest in part of the reorganization of Jamaican football is getting St. Thomas and Portland to function as one FA. I think if St. Thomas and Portland was one FA, then out of these two parishes, there will be one team strong enough to represent themselves in the National Premier League. It's a thought being expressed on the Metamorphosis.
Love and happiness. Yeah. Something that can make you do wrong, make you do right. Yeah. Love. Love and happiness. But wait a minute, something's going wrong. Someone's on the phone, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, what I want to tell you now, the Go-Go Club done about 3 o'clock in the morning, yes? Hey, but I tell you, it's that place to go through, and just observe, the powers of sexuality and clitoral energy, and how man behave when 2 liquor run through them face, and even how the music sound different and the bodies them start look different. Yeah, man, everything start look different, But the whole thing about it is an energy. It's an attraction, male and female. But in that settings now in the go-go, something has come in between, something called money. And there's a hustle. So what we have now is between the dancing and the drinking is hustling. What I uncovered is that a lot of those daughters there who are dancers, who are in nearly them almost in a birthday suit. They must have some little bit of things sort of just there. I would come to conclude after reasoning with a few of them, because I kind of doing my own research, It appears to me that these daughters have some serious financial and issues that they're trying to solve while they're on the stage. So while their bodies are gyrating, their brains are working out some economic issues. And the man, I'm looking at the body, and if I consider now his own economics, because it's a swapping going on. There is no necessarily love, but there is sexual feelings. So is there a space and a time now for those feelings to be expressed? Or is it that you have to always have it bottled up? How can a man pass through those places? And some of those men who pass through those places have wives. But something is sort of exotic about the Go-Go Club. Because the women there now know what the men come there for. So there's a whole heap of things on the show. I tell you, really up on show. But in a serious note now, I really wonder now, is it really possible for black man and black woman to be comfortable in this arrangement that is called monogamy? Is it really, really comfortable? Because I am seeing that relationships are flighty. Because you pick up emotions and you pick up feelings from people, but it doesn't mean that it is permanent or long-standing. How do we handle those passing movements, those feelings? You know that in the Western world, monogamy is considered to be the normal way. A man must have one woman and a woman must have one man. This having and having is problematic. Because women, I'm finding out, seem to just be attracted to man, just attracted to the man. And they're more attracted to the man when the man already is attracted to a woman. So there's something about multiple relations that must be part of our makeup. And it appears to me in Jamaica now that the woman knows that the man has several relations, but she don't want to know. And as long as she don't know, she will work with him. But if she knows, she will not work. Something needs to be broken down. The man them have to stop playing hide and seek. Maybe we must declare a truce. And all of the women them just come out and define themselves. Because I think it's better the women them know each other, you know. Better the women them begin to know each other if there's more than one in the relationship. Isn't it better for two women to share one man than two women to have no man at all? Question. Then of course, one will say, so when my thing? So I said, we can have enough man too? Why not?
There was a boy and girl. Boy said, I love you so.
It's not a matter of enough man, nor enough woman. It's about a relationship that is manageable. Because here we're talking about now the building of economics. The enough man and enough woman don't work. That is a religious idea coming out of the Solomonic thinking. I talking about now building constructive relationships that are grounded in more than one partner. In other words, now, if a man have two women or three, I think he should make them know each other. And I think that they should build a community that is grounded in their economic wealth. Yeah, but I'm talking about a man who's trying to sex down the world. And I'm talking about women who are trying to own men. I'm talking about the women who want relationship, want companionship, but don't necessarily have the capacity to own a man. So if we rethink our relations, there are women who have several men as their relations. If men want to remain in those situations, it is their choice. Likewise for the woman. But it seems more natural out of our tradition of polygamy that the men who are wealthy and politically astute are able to handle relations of more than one woman. So, I think 2 can be enough. I think 3 plenty. And I think 4 is too much in reality. 2 is better than too many. Every time. So the woman says she knows her man have another woman, but she don't want no. And as long as she don't know it, alright. That is deception. It's about time we broke down that deception and created that historical, cultural unity that we know. Yeah man, women can organize. And they can organize together with man. Conscious man. But the man pocket have to be deep.
Party Bella, you took all my money and told me that you love me. Party Bella, you know that I love you, but you still go away. Come back to me, baby. Each and every
So you talk about the church have 2,000 women in it and 10 men. And 200 women and 10 men. How it going to work? How it going to work? With all of these sexual energies and feelings flowing. No wonder Jesus become the center. This brown skinned man. Yeah, have to free yourself from that illusion. And think about the foundation of our relationship. We were basically polygamous. And we are basically polytheistic people. Several deities, male and female, extended into our family life. Have to rethink it.
Well, you know that I love you, but you still go away.
How we used to be. Yes, I'm thinking how it was only you and me. We used to stroll along the park, holding hands together. Oh, it was so nice when we were friends. Oh, it was so nice when we were friends.
I think we just have to think about ownership. That in a relationship, there really ought not to be anybody owning each other. Relationship must be based upon respect and care. So, 2 women care for me, and 2 women respect me. Why can I not love both of them, and they love me? What is wrong with that? And the same thing goes with the women who may have 2 different men who love them. If the men are willing to work with that, more power to the woman. And if the man is willing to work with those 2 women, you know, everything is relative. But we have to break out of this framework and lock us into this straitjacket called monogamy. It's just not working. We're a polytheistic people. We're accustomed to several relations. It is the wealth that counts. So when the Rastaman them used to talk about Solomon and his many wives, part of what was missing in the conversation was wealth. Because it requires wealth to help to sustain women. We're not about mind a woman, you know, because no man nothing mind a woman. Women must have powers to sustain themselves. But support, collectivity, that's what we're talking about. So women, it's better to share, I think. It's better to share than to want and to compare. They're dedicating this one to my special nurse out there.
Tell her try your best just to make it quick. Come attend to the sick.
Yeah, I know you're coming in.
Cause there must be something she can do. This heart is broken in 2. Tell her it's a case of emergency. There's a patient by the name of Gregory.
But at the same time, you know, there are a whole man who can't manage more than one woman. So just manage what you can manage. But I think when one woman have one man, boy, that man have a problem. Because when she ready, she just suffer him, you know. Yeah, man, she have a kind of power over him because she figures him can't go nowhere else. He has no other relation. Worse when she said, lock up the shop and keep up her antics. So you see, there's a balance that we have to find as males. And they know that too. They know that. They know that. And I must find ways to come from out of the closet. Yeah, the gays are coming out. Well, you see the man them with enough woman and the woman them with enough man. Everybody just come out and declare themselves that there's clarity. And then we can talk about building of real economics.
Night nurse, only you alone can quench this your thirst. My night nurse, oh the pain is getting worse.
Do you know social living is the best? 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 Takes behavior to get along. To get along, do you really, really know that? Do you know social living is the best? Do you know social living is the best? Do you know social living is the best?
We are going. This brother, gold and green train. Oh yes, we are golden. We are golden.
Yeah, the Metamorphosis. Dr. Iman Blak here. Giving thanks for another opportunity to sit into this seat and to communicate through the globe and the powerful intervention of Styles FM. Give thanks for the thinking powers. Give thanks for the deities, males and females, out of our culture, out of our story. Peace unto the item and prosperity unto their pocket and into their workplace and within their family system. Liberation of thoughts. Elevation of thinking, free mind. Rastafari, Iman Blak, out.